This is Coach Lay with Magic's Athletic Training. I'd like to welcome you to the Coach's Corner. Today, we're going to be going over some different styles of periodization. Over the last few weeks, we've gone over some stuff such as the FIT principle, high intensity training, and linear periodization. Today, we're going to go over undulating periodization. But before we get into today's message and today's topic, please make sure to click down below, hit that like button. It really helps us grow our channel. Also subscribe and share. With no further ado, let's get right into today's material. Today we're going to talk about undulating periodization. Last week we talked about linear periodization, and one of the key differences to undulating periodization versus linear periodization is that linear periodization has a gradual progression working on one specific fitness goal during that period, where undulating periodization does not have a gradual ramp up, more that it has a undulating up and down periodization where you're going to be working on your strength, your power, and your hypertrophy all in one training block or one training period. Where again, when we're talking about linear periodization, you're either working on one fitness goal at a time, whether that be your muscular endurance, your hypertrophy, your strength, your power. Where again, with undulating periodization, you're working on all three of those fitness goals in the same actual period. So, undulating periodization, also known as nonlinear periodization, is a waving approach to progression. What do I mean by a waving approach? It means, again, you are going to be going up and down in regards to the intensity. So one day you may be lifting 80% of your 1 rep max. The next day you may be lifting 60% of your 1 rep max. The next day you may be lifting 90% of your 1 rep max. So again, from training to training session, from training session to training session, you're going to be going up and down in intensity. One of the characteristics is that with a undulating periodization, you can either have long or short cycles, typically a longer interval of about 3 to 4 weeks. So again, that's very similar to the linear periodization. However, a linear periodization, those intervals can go anywhere up to 4 to 6 weeks, whereas with your undulating, it's only going to go 3 to 4 weeks. What are some of the advantages to utilizing this style of training? Number one, it maximizes your strength gains. So again, it's maximizing your strength gains because you're not going to not be really pushing your body for a long period of time. What do I mean by that? I mean that one day you're going to be lifting 80% of your 1 rep max. The next day you may only be lifting 60%, but the following day you may be lifting up to 90%. Where when we're doing our linear periodization, we're going to, if we're in our muscular endurance phase, we're only going to be lifting anywhere from 65 to 70% of our 1 rep max, but we're only going to be staying in that specific range for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. And because we're staying in that specific range for that long of a duration, it causes us to lose some of the gains that we've made in other areas, i.e. our hypertrophy and strength. Also, it allows for deloading, which helps decrease the plateau effect. So many times when we're doing our linear periodization, we reach our plateau. We're not starting to see any more changes because we're staying in that phase for so long. Where with our undulating periodization, because we're changing those variables so frequently, it lessens the effect of the plateau because the body is constantly being asked to make a new adaptation from day to day. So we're constantly changing the stressors on the body, which is going to cause different adaptations on a daily basis. It also allows for deloading. So what is deloading? Deloading means that it allows me to lift at a lower weight or a lower intensity after lifting at a higher intensity to allow my body ample time to recover, yet still not lose some of the strength gains or hypertrophy gains that I've gained over the course of my training. It offers a balanced program. So again, as I stated before, you can train your muscular endurance and hypertrophy, you can train your strength and hypertrophy, and your power all on a weekly basis. And we'll go over an example of what that actually looks like. So again, on a weekly basis, we're training our power, our hypertrophy, and our strength all in the same week. Where again, with linear periodization, we're only training in one mode or one of those areas for the entire 4 to 6 weeks. So again, we're either doing stability and muscular endurance for 4 to 6 weeks in linear. We're doing hypertrophy 4 to 6 weeks in linear. We're doing our strength 4 to 6 weeks in linear. And then we're doing our power 4 to 6 weeks. Whereas with a undulating style periodization, one day we're working strength, another day we're working power, another day we're working hypertrophy. So we're staying and working on all three phases of that during the course of the entire week. This is a style of training that is particularly beneficial for your athletes because, again, athletes need to gain their strength, improve their power, and do some hypertrophy work all during the same week. An athlete cannot afford to lose their power because they've been working on their hypertrophy for 6 weeks. An athlete can't afford to lose their hypertrophy because they've been working on their strength for 4 to 6 weeks. So when it comes to an athlete training, we want to make sure that we're training them holistically and hitting all of those different areas in every weekly training session. It also allows for, again, because an athlete is asking to work out 5 to 6 days a week in the strength room, then they may be with an athletic trainer doing some work specifically toward their sport, and then they may be doing something on their own. Because they're putting so much demand on the body, it's important to allow the body to deload, recover, and not increase the risk of injury. So with undulating periodization, it does allow for a deloading period. One of the disadvantages to undulating periodization, or why wouldn't everybody use undulating periodization, is the disadvantage that because of that wave effect of doing 80%, 60%, 90%, 75%, 95% on a daily basis, there is an increased risk of injury. So this is not a training that I would use for a beginner. It's not a training that I would particularly use for some other styles of training depending on what that person's fitness goal is. I may use it for a physique trainer, or for a physique competitor, but typically we may be using some linear periodization with them. So this is not a particular style that you see a lot in a box gym because it is somewhat complicated and we do need to know our 1 rep maxes, and there are some calculations that need to take place. So let's go over an example of what a undulating periodization looks like. So I've created an example of a 3-day split. So during the first week, our first day, we're going to work on hypertrophy. We're going to do 3 sets of 10. The second day, we're going to work on power, where we'll do 3 sets of 5. And our third day, we're going to work on strength, where we're doing 3 sets of 6. So again, depending on the exercises, that is the style that we're going to be doing. So day 1, hypertrophy, 3 by 10. Day 2, power, 3 by 5. Day 3 is going to be strength, 3 by 6. Week 2, day 1, we're going to do some hypertrophy work. we're going to do 3 sets of 8. Our power work is going to be 5 sets of 3. And our strength work will be 4 sets of 5. So again, during week number 2, day 1 hypertrophy, 3 by 8. Day 2 power, 5 by 3. Day 3 strength, 4 by 5. Now we're going to go into our 3rd week of training, utilizing the undulating method. Day 1, we're going to be doing some hypertrophy, doing that 4 sets of 6. Day 2, power is going to be 5 sets of 1 to 3 reps. And day 3, we're going to work on some strength, anywhere 5 sets of 3 to 4 reps. So again, week 3, hypertrophy, day 1, 4 by 6. Day 2, power, 5 by 1 to 3. And strength, 5 by 3 to 4. So there you have it. That's how a undulating periodization looks compared to a linear periodization. If you missed my previous presentation on linear periodization, please check our playlist of the Coach's Corner and make sure to please check it out. Excuse me. So, if you like the content that we are providing, please make sure again to help us grow the channel by sharing, and subscribing to the channel. And before we go, let's go over a quick little recap. So again, undulating or nonlinear periodization is a waving approach to progression. Waving means that the intensity, the percentages of your 1 rep maxes will swing greatly. There will be a great variance from day to day. A undulating periodization typically has a longer interval from 3 to 4 weeks, where versus your linear periodization, that could be anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. Some of the advantages to your undulating periodization is that it maximizes your strength gains. It allows your strength gains to be maximized because, again, you're training in all 3 phases of your training: strength, hypertrophy, and power every single week, where with, again, when we're talking about linear periodization, you're staying in one mode, whether it be strength, power, hypertrophy, or endurance, for 4 to 6 weeks. It allows for deloading, which helps decrease the plateau effect. Again, because we are putting so many different demands on the body, and we're asking the body to adapt differently on each day of the week, it allows us to lessen the plateau effect. It also offers a balanced programming so that you can train your muscular endurance, hypertrophy, strength, hypertrophy, and power on a weekly basis. So again, you're training in all modes of training every single week. However, the one disadvantage to this style of training is that because there is such a large variance from day to day in a load, it does have an increased risk of injury. And lastly, let's go over our example of what a undulating 3-day split looks like. So week 1, we had hypertrophy. On day 1, 3 by 10. Day 2, we worked on our power, 3 by 5. Day 3, we worked on our strength, 3 by 6. Week number 2, we did hypertrophy work, 3 by 8. Day 2, we did power, 5 by 3. Day 3, we did strength, 4 by 5. And lastly, week number 3, we did hypertrophy on day 1, 4 by 6. Day 2, power, 5 by 1 to 3. And day 3, 5 by 3 to 4. So there you have it, your undulating periodization. Again, I'd like to thank you for your time joining us today. I am Coach Lay. Please make sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button down below. And we out.